Now at 6, near record heat for many in our region is expected later today, and health experts want to make sure you're staying safe.
Heat exhaustion is going to be where you start feeling like your heart is racing, maybe shallow breathing, excessive sweating.
What you need to know before you go outside as your special weather impact edition of Sunrise starts right now. Good morning and thank you for joining us. I'm China Green. We have team coverage on this weather impact alert day. Our Thomas Schultz is standing by with how some schools are dealing with the heat. But first, Chris McGinnis as your forecast. Good morning, Chris.
Yeah, let's get you out the door and good morning, China. Heat advisory remains in effect for the Portland metro area, a good chunk of the area actually through 10 o'clock with that moderate heat risk continuing from basically late morning through late afternoon, right? We've got a little wider window of 90-degree heat since we're off to such a warmer start. And so you need to stay hydrated. Don't overexert yourself. We're not used to this kind of heat this early, right? So just be prepared for that if you do have to spend time working out in the elements. Again, the heat advisory everywhere shaded in orange. The I-5 corridor from Seattle south to Eugene, Interstate 84 out through the Columbia Basin. Scorching hot day there. We're off to a warm start at 65 last check at PDX. And by the way, the record warm minimum for today is 64, and that's where we started. So we're already off to a really, really warm start. We could be up near 90 degrees by lunchtime, which is earlier than we were in the 90s yesterday. And I've got us ultimately topping out at 94, which is just 1 degree off today's record of 95. So really hot today, relief coming slowly as we go into the day on Tuesday. More on that in just a bit.
Thank you, Chris. And some school districts in our area are preparing for hot temperatures today. Portland Public Schools will release students 3 hours early. Sunrise reporter Thomas Schultz joins us live from Lincoln High School in Southwest Portland with more on this. Thomas?
Hey, good morning, China. And that 3-hour release is for all schools within the Portland Public Schools school district. And that's not the only change. Childcare activities and after-school programs are also canceled today district-wide. Here's a breakdown of how that early release schedule is going to look. First, elementary schoolers are released at 11:30. K through 8 schools get out at 12:30. Middle school students get out of class at 1, and high school students are released by 12:30. Now this all comes as temperatures are expected to top 90 degrees this afternoon. Sports in Portland Public Schools will follow OSAA guidelines about practices and activities. Meals will be distributed prior to students being released. Portland Public Schools says this decision prioritizes the well-being of students and staff, ensuring that everyone can return home safely. And they're not the only school district that we're hearing from. We've heard from teachers in the Salem-Keizer School District who are concerned about how this high heat could affect them and students, particularly in classrooms that don't have air conditioning. In response, the teachers union down in Salem-Keizer has reached out in a message to teachers saying that it is important to monitor yourself and your students for possible heat-related illnesses. The school district is also encouraging teachers to change their lesson plans to have highly interactive activities followed by a little bit lesser activities that are a little bit more slower paced. That change in interaction is just easier for students to follow, they say, when there is high heat like we're going to see today. They also say that if you are in a room without air conditioning or your classroom does rise to high heat temperatures, to request a fan from your school to increase that circulation within the classroom. China?
Thomas Schultz reporting live from Lincoln High School. Thank you, Thomas. And for more coverage on today's weather impact alert forecast, tune in for KGW News at Sunrise live at 7 o'clock this morning on our TV streaming app KGW Plus. So you'll be able to see more of Chris's forecast, plus the latest on schools closing early today because of the heat. You could download KGW Plus for free. You can do that anytime on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. In the meantime, with the high temperatures and dry conditions that we saw over the weekend, we'll continue to see today. Tualatin Valley and Fire has enacted a temporary burn ban. So that means backyard and agricultural burning is prohibited, along with any other kind of controlled burning. Cooking fires and grills are still okay, but definitely be mindful of keeping them away from vegetation. In other headlines this morning, the search is ongoing for Travis Decker, the man charged with killing his 3 young daughters and leaving their bodies near Leavenworth, Washington. Authorities have begun reopening recreation areas that were closed during the search for Decker. While authorities say there is no credible threat to some of those areas, they are warning people who go on the trails to be on alert. Now, officials say Decker is a military veteran, an avid outdoorsman with extensive skills and living off the grid and outdoor survival. According to court documents obtained by our sister station in Seattle, just days before allegedly killing his daughters, Decker looked up how to relocate to Canada online. The Canada Border Services Agency says it's working closely with U.S. Customs and Border Protection as well as the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to identify people on both sides of the border. It was a scary incident on board a TriMet Max car yesterday when it apparently derailed outside Providence Park. This happened just before 6 o'clock last night when TriMet reported a track issue that disrupted the blue and red lines. We heard from a commuter who was on that car.
It just felt like a huge rumble out of nowhere, and obviously everybody knew something was wrong. And we looked back, and the train's looks like it's disconnected, from the other part.
TriMet has since resumed regular services for both lines. There were no reported injuries. Oregon State Senator Anthony Broadman is pushing a bill that would allow a different class of pickup trucks on the road. So he wants to be able to legally register and use K trucks here in Oregon. It's that thing right there. They're small Korean and Japanese made pickup trucks capable of carrying medium loads. And right now they're allowed on private property and are not street legal. Senator Broadman wants to make them a more affordable alternative for transport.
These are a more nimble, a cheaper option for people. It's not going to replace the need for all large freight vehicles, but it's an option. And I heard from constituents throughout the state that this was a tool they wanted to use for small business, for recreation. And
we talked to an import auto shop in Bend that's worked on a few of these trucks. While the owner is not opposed to the bill, he's questioning the legal precedent set by making a loophole for safety laws for these kinds of trucks.
Bypassing the very problems that in fact they voted for when they passed these rules of having tire monitor systems, backup cameras, a lot of the emission stuff. The problem of expensive trucks is a maker of their own doing. And now they're trying to solve the problem by passing a bill like this, which just goes down the slippery slope.
The auto shop owner there also said that even if K trucks are legalized in Oregon, they're still not federally legal, which would limit interstate use. It is a weather impact alert day here at KGW. Heading over to Chris McGinnis for a look at what we can expect today.
Let's take you to someplace a little cooler. Just a little cooler. Timberline, not much cooler. It's at 60 right now at Timberline. There's Mount Jefferson and the Three Sisters off in the distance. The air aloft today is about as warm as it was yesterday, maybe a degree or two cooler. That's splitting hairs. The point is, as I watch out for our spider, we're off to a very mild start. 65 last check at PDX. The record warm minimum, as in the record warm overnight low temperature for today is 64, and that's where we started at PDX. So if that holds, we will likely tie that record. It's 60 now in Beaverton, 58 Hillsborough, across the state. Dow's checking in with 67. All of these readings warmer than we would typically see this time of the year. Pendleton, Baker City, Burns, Bend, a lot of these readings would typically be in the 40s in many cases, right? In early June at 6:08 in the morning. So the air mass is warm area-wide. The heat advisory remains in effect through 10 o'clock from Seattle south to Eugene and then east along the Interstate 84 corridor out into the Arlington, Columbia Basin area. In fact, look at this, by noon, or just before noon, Futurecast paints the Dows at 97, Arlington flirting with the century mark. And here in the Willamette Valley, we didn't get into the 90s until afternoon yesterday, and today we're going to be really close to that at noon. So we're a little ahead of schedule in the temperature department compared to yesterday at this time. Ultimately, we'll probably top out in the mid-90s. We hit 96 yesterday. Futurecast likes 95. If we get to 95, that would tie the record set back in 1955. Meanwhile, east of the Cascades, mid to upper 90s. In fact, triple-digit heat now likely in the Dalles, in Arlington, and getting out towards Pendleton. This part of the region is going to be sweltering for today and probably tomorrow too. Relief from the west side of the state will come in later tonight and tomorrow. And in fact, the beach, I haven't talked much about you folks this morning, but it's going to be lovely. Although a little cloudy with that onshore push. Temperatures in the 60s at the Oregon coast. And then as we go through the overnight hours, we'll finally dip down here. All right, so our KGW weather impact alert for the heat advisory until 10. Moderate heat risk late this morning through early evening. Stay hydrated, don't overexert yourself in the heat. Breeze will pick up a little bit later today. That'll feel good, and then it really picks up tomorrow, and that will take a bite out of the high heat that we've been experiencing the last day or two. So 94 today, that's it for the heat. In fact, I'll step out of the way and show you my 7-day forecast. Not only is that it for the heat in this little hot spell today, but that might be it for the next 10 to 14 days beyond today. So if you don't like the heat, especially this high heat, good news in that part of our forecast, right? Looks like this is going to be it for a little bit. All right, let's get you out the door. Quick look at the roads right now. This is I-5 south of town near Carmen Drive. You can see northbound traffic zipping right along. No major trouble on that side of town. 205 in the Westland area. That looks good as well. I haven't seen any major trouble out there just yet on the freeway, so I'm happy to let you know about that. Be aware, though, as the fleet from downtown pulls out this morning, bridge lifts possible on the Broadway, the Steel, and the Burnside bridges through about 11 o'clock. Again, these bridge lifts last 30 to 45 minutes at a time. So if your commute takes you over those bridges today, be aware that this could be in your forecast. You may want to try using I-405 and the Fremont Bridge, or maybe I-5 and the Markham Bridge today as an alternate to avoid getting stuck in any of those downtown bridge lifts. China?